The big polar vortex has made it all the way down here to southern Missouri, and even though it's not near as cold here as it is up in the northern United States and up in Canada, it's still freezing down here. So it's a perfect day to make something really hot and warm for dinner for the family, and I have found the perfect thing. Now, I'm going to be using so many things that we have grown or raised on the homestead over the last year. I'm super excited to show you how you can use your home-raised meat, your canned beans and veggies, and just whip it all together, and you can have it simmering all day long to have a wonderful meal in the evening. So I want to get started and show you. I'm going to be making a Mexican stew today. I'm going to be using stew meat, venison stew meat, but this recipe would be amazing also with beef stew meat or pork stew meat or some diced chicken or diced turkey breast. So the first thing that I need to do is to get the stew meat browning in the pot. I'm actually going to have this simmer all day long on our wood stove. But you could do this in your crock pot, you could do it on the stove top, and if you're in a hurry, you could actually do it in your Instant Pot. So I need to take over our stew meat, our venison stew meat, over to the stove top and get it browning. I have about 2 tablespoons worth of fat that's heating up in my pot here. I'm choosing to use home rendered lard from our pigs from this past summer, but olive oil would be fine, coconut oil, really any oil that you have on your homestead. I've thawed out 2 pounds of venison stew meat, and I'm going to just, drop it in there. Some of them are still a little bit frozen, but it'll be okay because it's going to simmer all day long. Now we're just browning this on all sides, just real quickly. We don't want to cook the meat all the way through. And the reason why we're doing this rather than just putting it into our soup raw is to make sure that the bits of meat kind of hold together rather than fall apart and just turn into shredded meat. It's fine if you want to do it that way. The chunks of meat just won't be together in one piece when you eat it for dinner. All sides of the pieces are brown, so now it's time to start adding some of our other ingredients. We're going to start by adding about 2 cups of diced onions. We actually grew a bunch of onions last summer and we diced them and put them in the freezer. So I'm going to add all of this, which is about 2 cups. We're also going to add about 1 cup of carrots, diced carrots. And we also have some from the freezer that we grew. I'm going to put about 1 cup of those in there. A little more. Stir that around. That will help them just start thawing out because the meat is so nice and hot. The liquids that we'll be putting in here to make the soup will come from 1 quart jar of diced tomatoes. These are homegrown tomatoes that I canned. So a whole quart of those and all of the juices. As well as 1 quart of poultry broth, which I also canned here on the homestead from the chickens that we raised. I have 3 different jars of beans here. I buy all of my beans in bulk. I buy a lot of things in bulk from Azure Standard. If you're interested in knowing more about them, we'll put a link down in the comment section and in the description box. I have a pint of black beans, white northern beans, and pinto beans that I'm going to drain and rinse out and put those in our soup. looks fantastic so far. This is going to be so good simmering on the wood stove all day long with all of the smell of that going throughout the house. It's going to be awesome. But we've got a lot of spices that need to go in here. So I'm going to start with adding a couple spoonfuls of these canned green chilies. These are actually made from roasted Anaheim peppers that we grew last summer. They're pretty spicy, and our kids don't really like a whole lot of heat in their Mexican food. So I'm just going to add 1, maybe and a half spoonfuls of that in there. I'm also going to add some poblano chili powder. Poblano peppers, when you grow them, when they're fresh, they're called poblano. When they're dried, they're called ancho chilies. And I have some powdered from previous years. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of this powder. It's not very spicy at all. It will just add a lot of good flavor. Now, you probably won't find this in the grocery store, but what you can find, if this is what you'd like to do, is dried ancho chilies. In a lot of grocery stores, you know what, that seems like a lot. I'm only going to do 1.5 tablespoons. A lot of grocery stores have a section with dried Mexican spices and dried peppers, and you can actually buy whole ancho chilies from the grocery store, and you could just grind them up if you wanted to. You could probably just, break it up and put it in there. But we make our own here on the homestead. If you don't want to do that, you could just use 1 or 1.5 tablespoons of chili powder. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of cumin, ground cumin. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of organic garlic powder. Now on our homestead, as much as I can, I'd like to grow my own spices. We're out of garlic already, so in the case that I can't grow them all, I like to buy them in bulk, so I'm transitioning over. The garlic powder, I'm also ordering from Azure Standard. I haven't quite gotten there yet with the cumin. Next time I will order bulk cumin from them. And bulk pepper. I'm going to put a half a teaspoon of ground black pepper and 1 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt. I also do buy this in bulk, as you can see. Time to reorder. Should be coming in my next order. So about half to 1 teaspoon of salt, depending on your ingredients. If you are using chicken broth that has sodium in it, or if the beans you have sodium in it, you might want to hold off on adding salt until you taste it at the end. So this is looking fantastic. Now, if I had a can of organic corn, I would put it in right now, but I don't have any. I don't buy very many canned vegetables in the store, so I just don't have that, but it would taste so yummy in there. So that is looking fantastic. I am going to cheat a little bit and heat this up on the stove top first. I'm going to bring it to a boil, and then I'm going to transfer it to the wood stove and let it simmer all day long. It's time to put this on the wood stove. There. I'm going to let that sit there and simmer for at least 4 to 6 hours. The longer, the better. So now basically dinner is done. I just need to make cornbread. So the perfect piece of cornbread and a hot bowl of stew on a cold night. You know, it's probably single digits outside, maybe even colder, but you wouldn't even know it in here. Our wood stove is doing such a great job, and to fill our bellies with hot stew. Can't get much better than that, except when you add cheddar cheese. You guys, I hope on this cold night you are making something warm for your family's bellies. If you'd like to try this recipe, that would be fantastic. If you're enjoying this video and enjoying our channel, we would love for you to subscribe. Don't forget to check us out on all of our social media, including Instagram. And until next time, thanks so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.